the United Kingdom has long struggled with the murky history of so-called grooming gangs. These gangs, which have sexually abused thousands of young girls over the years. Britain now stands shamed before the world as all of this suppressed anger is bubbling to the surface. There are calls for a public inquiry, demands for accountability, and it's being led by the world's richest man, Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla and SpaceX and now the owner of X. He's going after UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer over the Pakistani grooming gangs. In response, Starmer has staunchly defended his record as the head of the Director of Public Prosecutions. He has called Musk's comments, without directly naming Musk, as lies and misinformation. Here's an explainer on that story, and then we'll go across to our guest.
Those that are spreading lies and misinformation are not interested in victims.
Elon Musk has recently launched a series of pointed attacks against British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, accusing him of being a national embarrassment. Musk has demanded Starmer's resignation. This public confrontation on the social media platform X, which is owned by Musk, has its roots in the controversial issue of grooming gangs in the UK. These child rape cases go back to a time during Starmer's tenure as the Director of Public Prosecutions, or the DPP, from 2008 to 2013. Musk's allegations center on his view that Starmer failed to adequately address the issue of child sexual exploitation during his time as the head of prosecution in Britain. Musk specifically accuses Starmer of allowing rape gangs, particularly those involving Pakistani British Muslim men, to operate without facing justice. Musk claims that Starmer's leadership contributed to systemic failures that enabled these gangs to exploit vulnerable girls over the years. In his various posts on X, the social media platform which has become a megaphone for Musk's voice to be heard around the world, he has called for a national public inquiry into these grooming gangs cases. He has criticized the Labour government for what he calls its alleged complicity in these crimes. Musk's rhetoric has escalated at a time when he suggested that Starmer should face charges for his complicity in what he described as the worst mass crime in British history. He's also targeted Jess Phillips, who is the safeguarding minister, accusing her of covering up for Starmer by rejecting calls for a public inquiry. The grooming gang scandal refers to a series of high-profile cases in the UK. This predominantly involved British Pakistani men who were found to be involved in systemic sexual exploitation of young girls. These cases gained significant media attention and public outrage because of the apparent failure of law enforcement and child protection agencies. Reports indicated that officials often hesitated to act because of fear of appearing to be racist, and that led to widespread criticism and calls for accountability. The issue gained significant media attention after reports emerged from towns like Rotherham and Rochdale, revealing that local authorities there had failed to act on numerous reports of child sexual abuse because of fear of being politically incorrect, and also of fears of being labelled racist. The scandal led to public outrage and calls for accountability both amongst law enforcement and in the social services. Starmer's role as the head of prosecution at that time was scrutinized, although he was the one who introduced new guidelines in 2013 aimed at improving responses to child sexual exploitation. Critics argue that more decisive action was required during his tenure. The failure to prosecute many offenders has led to ongoing debates about justice for the victims and accountability of those who were in positions of power. Musk has even gone so far as to appeal directly to the monarch, King Charles III, suggesting that the king should dissolve parliament and call for new elections. However, such an action would be unprecedented in Britain. It could lead to a constitutional crisis in the UK. There is no provision for the king to fire a prime minister unless the prime minister has lost the confidence of parliament. The monarch traditionally remains politically neutral and does not interfere with parliamentary matters, which is what Musk wants him to do. Despite Elon Musk's repeated attacks, Keir Starmer remains the undisputed leader of the Labour Party. He enjoys substantial support within his party and in Parliament. Following a landslide victory in July of 2024, Starmer's leadership has been bolstered by a massive majority in Parliament. In fact, the Labour Party under Starmer won its biggest election majority with over 400 members of Parliament in the last 25 years. The last time a Labour Prime Minister had more than 400 MPs in the British Parliament was in 1997 when Tony Blair led New Labour to end years of Conservative and, in specific, Margaret Thatcher rule. But within just a few months of that historic electoral landslide by Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, there is growing criticism from various factions of the party. The Labour Party views Musk's criticisms as politically motivated, suggesting that they stem from frustration over recent government actions against those individuals who spread rumours related to riots that happened in Southport last year. This context adds another layer to Musk's engagement with UK politics. He appears to be targeting Starmer not just for past actions, but also as part of a broader critique of how Starmer's government has been handling free speech issues. Over 30 far-right activists, including the right-wing provocateur Tommy Robinson, was arrested by the British police for fanning misinformation which led to riots in southern England last year. But why then is Musk targeting Starmer, and that too for a controversy from well over a decade ago? Starmer responded to the controversy. He did not directly refer to Musk by name, but he said it was a travesty that some British politicians, referring to opposition Conservative politicians, who he said were jumping onto this bandwagon on some conspiracy theory being floated by the far right. He lamented how the Conservatives, despite being in power for 14 years, did nothing to investigate these unsubstantiated claims. So I want to go across to Berzin Wagmar. He's from the South Asia Institute at the School of Oriental and African Studies, one of the foremost schools in London. Thank you very much, Berzin, for speaking with us. Just put this into perspective for our viewers. Why is Musk raking something up from more than 10 years ago in the hope that that will scratch away at the kind of majority and the mandate that Starmer's got just, 6 months ago?
Well, Zaka, I would like to commence by saying that regardless of Mr. Musk's comments on social media and the tone and tenor of what he has to say, some of which merits rectification, no doubt, the point is, this is about the British state's magisterial failure of epic proportions insofar as protecting the most vulnerable in society is concerned. And it's a failure of both parties going back to 2010. The Conservatives and Labour, now who are exchanging brickbats in Parliament, neither can afford to talk, actually. To say nothing of the Metropolitan Police Force, social workers, case workers, all of them must be implicated in how this has come to pass. The point is this: an independent inquiry into child sexual abuse report, a 180 million investigation, is published finally in 2022 under Professor J. While it investigated child sexual networks by organized networks, its focus on mass rape gangs and grooming gangs was limited, and it did not hear evidence about scandals, for example, in Rotherham, Rochdale, and Oxford. You see, the report only covered 6 towns involved in such child rape investigations. Coming to the present, just as a brief pointer, but I want to get back to what we are discussing. In the first 10 months of 2024, there were 9,000 sexual offenders enumerated in Britain. All the 9,000 in question are foreign nationals. What happens in the case of these child sexual abuses, murders, and petrol bombings also of white vulnerable girls from the lowest order, from working class backgrounds, by Pakistani, Sunni, Mirpuri, Punjabi men, the sort who incorrectly tend to pass off here as Kashmiri. And we do know that in the South Asian context that Mirpuris are not Kashmiris because they don't even speak Kashmiri for a start. They are not recognized as Kashmiris by either Hindus or Muslims who are domiciled in historic Kashmir.
I want to come back to the issue at hand, and the Labour Party's contention is that Mr. Musk is raising all of this. It's from 10 years ago. It's a closed chapter. You heard Starmer yesterday saying, why didn't the Conservatives do a thing about it? They were in power for 14 years. And secondly, they're saying that all of this is payback for the arrest of the 30 far-right activists, including Tommy Robinson, who the government feels was spreading misinformation, which led to riots in Southport last year.
Tommy Robinson is a distraction, and I don't want to merit the dignity of this discourse with him, because there would have been no Tommy Robinson if the government had acted. And when I say acted, Zaka, it's like this. For example, take this 2010 West Midlands Police report, which said that and I quote, the predominant offender profile of Pakistani Muslim males combined with the predominant victim profile of white females has the potential to cause significant community tensions, close quote. Then, for example, Channel 4 in 2004 was about to broadcast a documentary on abuse in Bradford, and that was delayed because police forces warned that the evidence of, quote, Asian men, that is Pakistani Muslim Maypuris, targeting young white girls could inflame racial tensions. In every instance, we have an inert, morally craven administration and aspects of officialdom who simply cave in for social cohesion and for supposed community empowerment and betterment. And they feel that this is the reason why we cannot inflame tensions, just to keep things in check.
All right.
One
could argue that you cannot condone a crime or look the other way when a crime happens just in the name of political correctness. But thank you very much, Barzeen, for joining us. We'll see what is going to be the political fallout of this. Like I said, Starmer responded without naming Musk, but Musk is going on and on at it. Whether or not there will be a political fallout to it is something that Britain will be keenly watching.